Hey, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. I'm Dr. Ariel Hammond, and this is the Enrichment Entrepreneur, a podcast for current and aspiring entrepreneurs who are in the business of helping kids thrive. We're talking after school programs, summer camps, tutoring, enrichment, the people and places that show up for kids outside the classroom. I'm still building right alongside you, and that's exactly why we're here to learn, grow, and figure this out together.
Let's go!
We are here with Brandon Laws, and we are going to talk marketing today on the Enrichment Entrepreneur. Brandon, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's so good to be here. Yeah, so I've had a long marketing career. I actually have basically two full-time jobs. I've worked inside of an HR and payroll company as their sole marketing person for over 17 years. While I've been their internal marketing person, we grew from 25 employees when I first started to over 100 employees. I've seen a lot of growth, and building marketing from the ground up gave me a chance to work on so many different areas of marketing. And probably about 12 years ago, maybe almost 15, I started doing freelance marketing projects as well for small businesses. And I got a chance to work with a lot of local businesses in Portland and started working on special projects. And then it just became a full-blown business. I've been working with a lot of different industries and seeing firsthand like how different businesses are trying to target their audience, and with technology evolving too, I've got to grow a lot.
What kind of businesses do you typically work with?
Primarily, I've focused on business to business, but I have worked in now the trades industry as well. I've worked with an author and speaker. I've worked in retail. So really, I'm pretty industry agnostic, because at the end of the day, all of these businesses are trying to target a specific audience. And it's just a matter of figuring out where those audiences are and tailoring a marketing program that works for them.
Agree. How did you end up working with small businesses, in particular with marketing?
Basically, it's been word of mouth for the most part. So within my full-time job, we are supporting a lot of small, medium-sized organizations locally. And so I think just people were asking me, they're like, I'm so confused about XYZ, or building a website or logo design, whatever it may be. And so they'd ask me, and often, just because I'm a teacher and coach by just nature, I would give them some valuable insight. And then they would often just come back to me like, hey, can you just do it for me or walk me through it? And so it just kind of snowballed from there. Still to this day, I don't do a great job of marketing myself. I pretty much just take referrals as they come in. And then how I met you too is a little different. I'm part of several programs that are part of supporting small businesses. And so I've sort of inherited some of those organizations that way. And that's been a fun experience for me.
Why do you think small business owners struggle with marketing so much? And this is verified in the conversations that I've had with different enrichment operators and entrepreneurs. They mention marketing sales as one of their top pain points. So why do you think we as a small business community struggle so much with marketing?
I've thought about this a lot. I think it's because it's so easy to get distracted by like the shiny objects that are out there. I think people are like, oh, I need to get leads and I need revenue. And so then they work backwards. Well, I need to have a website, or I need to be on social media. It's overwhelming. Entrepreneurs, business owners, they're so distracted with so many things to do that marketing becomes quickly overwhelming when you think about like, well, I've got to develop a website, I've got to start a YouTube channel, or I've got to create content. There's just so many different things, and it can quickly paralyze them into doing absolutely nothing. And often they don't know where to start too. So I think that's where marketing can be challenging, because it's not, one thing is not going to drive the interest or leads or revenue or whatever you're trying to sales. It's a lot of different things. And I think that's where it gets really complicated.
Yeah. And not knowing what is going to work. Like, I'm going to put this energy, and a lot of marketing tactics take money too. So I'm going to put this energy and this money toward a bunch of different things. And then I have to do them long enough to see if those are the actions that are going to equate. And for me to know that, I have to have data. It has to be measurable. So then I have to figure out, well, what am I going to measure as my success metric here? Is it going to be like click through? Is it going to be conversion? Am I just going to generally see sales increase? Does it need to be online versus in person? Where does my customer, where do they typically congregate? So then I have to do research on that end. And so it takes more discipline and more thought to have a plan for it to really work or not work and to see that through the data. And I think what a lot of us end up doing is we don't want to do nothing. We'll listen to like other business podcasts and we know we should do marketing. We'll hear keynote speakers, things like that. You got to do marketing, you got to get better with your marketing. So we'll do that. We don't know what we're doing. So we'll try something, throw some money in Google ads, lose a couple grand, and then just not do it anymore and
Yeah.
so get professional help.
I think that you're hitting on a key point, and you've got to try a lot of different things. A lot of areas of marketing are very measurable. You also got to be willing to just pivot quickly. And I think experimentation is really important. I do want to just point out, because you mentioned Google ads, I think that's a trap that people fall into as well. I'm not saying they don't work. I'm just saying, like, you can't build it and own it. Like, you're building something on Google's platform, and once you turn it off or the money runs out, you don't have anything to show for it other than possibly some leads or sales. But that's why I've always, like, as a small business, like growing your own platform or creating your own content and having assets that you actually own, I've always felt is really important to start with first, because then you have this foundation and people can more likely find you, versus ads to me sometimes feels like wasting money.
Yeah. Okay. I feel affirmed. Thanks.
Most
Because
all businesses I talk to, that's the case.
yeah, that's interesting. Okay. So is that the most common mistake that you see with small business owners as we make our first attempts in marketing, us trying to go to things more expensive tactics like Google AdWords and it not working and then not doing something else? Or are there other bigger or more common mistakes that you see?
I think that's one of the bigger mistakes, is just they want the quick fix, and often they're disappointed because the results are underwhelming. And I think it's often because they don't have the assets behind it. So if you think about buyer behavior, they may see an ad, they may be intrigued, but as soon as they go to your website and it doesn't have similar messaging or capture them through brand assets that you have and make them want to go a little bit further and buy from you, I think that's where it falls flat. So I always like to start in the reverse. Start with understanding what your buyers want, and then tailoring your visual brand and your brand messaging to your audience. Once you've built out all those pieces, then I think you could start working on different channels, including ads.
Yeah. So talking to those customers, if you don't already know what they're looking for, the words they use, that's something you mentioned when we work together. What words do they use when they're describing why they want your services? What do they say continuously? We can incorporate that in the messaging because we want things to be in the words that the customers use. And we want to know what's the message they take away from this. If I describe it one way, but they describe it with different words. What does that mean? How do we reconcile the two? Do I need to branch my messaging to go to where they're understanding it? Or is their articulation of it showing a misunderstanding, meaning I need to remedy that with better communication and however I'm communicating the message or the product or the service the way that I am thus far?
Yeah, you'd mentioned earlier, like, what are the biggest mistakes? I mentioned the ads, but really it's positioning yourself as the hero in the story, as a brand. If you don't speak to the problems that you're trying to solve for whoever's visiting your website or engaging with your brand, that's the biggest miss that I see a lot of businesses do, is like, look at all of our products and services and features. Look how cool we are. Here's all the social proof behind it. But how's it going to hook somebody when you're probably in a sea of competitors saying the same thing about features and benefits? Whereas if you, like, talk about the problem that you're solving and why you're the one to solve it for them, that's a better positioning in terms of your marketing messaging than it is to just say, like, look what we can do. That's a huge mistake that I see people make.
We made it. Thanks for helping.
It happens.
What's happened with that?
It's natural because you
Yeah.
wanted to say, look at all of our experience. Like, we're so good. We have all these credentials and we've worked with these brands, but I don't think people care about that. If I'm Googling something and then I land on their website for the first time, I'm solving whatever problem I'm trying to solve. Well, if 1 to 2 seconds that I'm seeing a hero image on a website or a scrolling video or messaging, you got to capture me within that second, or otherwise I'm bouncing somewhere else. That's the key in all of this is like, how do you capture attention using like fewest amount of words, but also helping people understand that we can solve your problem. We're the ones to do it.
Yeah. And that 1 second, it's crucial. Sometimes if we design our own website first, we think we have more time than we do, especially if we don't have a marketing background, which is what myself and my team did. We thought, oh yeah, they're going to read through the whole homepage. So let's like jam pack as much in there as possible. But when you work with someone who's an expert in marketing, they can bring you to reality of what behavior actually looks like when going to different websites. So yeah, we only have a second or two to either get their attention or they move away.
Yep. Yep.
Do you think, or how do you think marketing is different specifically for businesses that provide services for children?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge because there's an emotional aspect of this too. A lot of different programs out there, and there's only so much time and money that parents can spend their money or time on. And so finding the right program that is going to be a safe and worthwhile choice for their child, you got to speak to those things. I don't know if marketing's any different, but I think you need to pull on the heartstrings a little bit for parents because it is an emotional decision. As is most purchases. I've told you I've worked in the B2B side a lot. This is more of a business to consumer play. So I think you need to just go a little harder on the emotions than you would on the B2B side.
So pull more at the heartstrings versus like logic.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think for a program like yours, we've talked about this a lot. There's a lot of unease about the future with like AI, automation, and just like where things are going as far as job opportunities. So that's a real issue for parents. I have kids of my own, they're teenagers, and I wonder where's the world going? Well, if I'm going to put them into programs, I need to know that they're going to be set up for success and that they're going to have good job opportunities. And so that I'd be looking at programs that are going to help them gain the knowledge to succeed as adults. When you get into younger kids, I think parents are even more anxious because the time horizon is huge. So knowing that they're going to be taken care of and that they're going to keep growing, that's an important aspect of it.
Agreed. Agreed. So now we're going to use my business as a case study. What are some of the things that we worked on together?
Yeah, well, much like when I work with other small businesses, the first thing I like to do is just a full-on interview, kind of like this, where I'm just really getting to know your business, you know your customers, who you're targeting, the problem that you're solving too. So it's just like getting all of that out first is an important start to this because I need to get to know you as well. Like I can't just come into working with somebody and just look at their website and assume like I know everything about them. So I really try to get to know them. And then I analyze all the assets that they have and just kind of poke holes in their marketing to see where to start first because I don't take a cookie cutter approach to marketing, nor should really anybody. Like you're not all starting from the same place. But immediately with you, I saw there's a lot of good pieces here with the website in particular. I think it was really text heavy and I didn't tell the story the way I heard you tell it to me. That's where we started first was the brand messaging, just homing in on that and making sure that it was speaking to the problem that you're solving. And then the visual branding pieces came after that. I think we refreshed your logo a little bit, the color palette, we expanded on it. So it was like really bold colors and fun. You're an educational program. So I think like parents have got to be like, this looks fun, but also enriching for my children. And I think we accomplished that.
Yeah. I think naturally I would have just worked on something like the logo or something like
Yeah,
it seems
a lot of people
silly
start there.
looking yeah, it seems silly looking back at it or just like the colors. Maybe we can use better colors because that DIY approach, you are going to be at the mercy of whatever article you read that says do these top 5
Right.
things. And we don't know really like in our specific context, what is the highest priority thing. That's where someone on the outside can look in and they can see your marketing needs with just more clarity. There's value just in that, having someone from the outside, yes, also an expert to be able to just look and see what you may be missing.
Yeah. The other thing that we did with you too is we were able to work on a bunch of different things all at once. And I remember I started working on the brand messaging, but I remember we refreshed the logo at like early on, just slight tweaks to it. And then I had my photographer come out and take some photos of one of your upcoming classes or camp. I think it was a camp at the time because it was like winter break. And that piece was important because when people are visiting a website and they're like deciding whether or not to send their kid to a program, they want to feel what that experience is going to be like. And so I remember the photography was an important aspect of this because you could put words on a screen and it could say a lot of things, but without the visual component of it, like see what I'm getting into or my kid's going to get into, it could be all for nothing. So I think that was an important piece that we worked on early on too.
Yeah. And especially with parents who may not know of your business yet, if you're just getting started, your newer business in your community, you don't have like a wide footprint yet, they may be just wondering, are you legit? And if we don't have photos that are from our programs, then that sows a seed of doubt. But yeah, I think that was actually like the first thing you said. You like looked at my website.
We need
You're
people
like,
photos.
are these your pictures? No, but they do show what we're doing. And yeah, you talked about like, no, let's get your programs and our photos, and what was happening in our programs was so much more like beautiful and
Yeah.
impressive than the stock photos that I used. I really didn't know just how important it was to capture footage from our programs, even video clips. And the pictures, they don't have to be perfect. They could even start off as DIY, but having them be authentic. And it's something about it. Like when you saw the website, those were authentic pictures maybe to others, but they weren't to mine. And you could instantly see that. But now on all of our materials, all of our presence is rooted in authentic, our programs. No one has that doubt anymore. No one asks, are those yours? They just kind of assume it. And I know nowadays we can use the AI photos, but somehow I think even that is still not, it's not ideal to your program photos. Like something about that. You really taught me the importance of establishing trust right from those images.
I think when you have a human brand too, that's like the
Yeah.
differentiator. Not only is it your curriculum, but it's like who you are and your beliefs. Having like real people in photos across all of your marketing collateral matches with the brand story. So people can figure that out pretty quickly. Like I look at enough websites where I'm like, I know if that's AI slop or if it's stock photography or if it's a real photo. And I think people are going to start getting smart enough to figure out that for human-based brand enrichment program, I think it's really important to have real people in the photos.
Yeah. And if you have a staff, a team, whoever's working with the kids, the parents, the guardians, they want to see that. If it's you, then you should be in some of the photos. If it's you have staff, you have instructors, coaches, they
Mhm.
should be in some of the photos so families can see who is working with my kid.
Exactly.
The instructors are the product, who's delivering the services of the product. So they need to be able to see that.
And this goes across all of your marketing channels as well. If you don't mind, can I tell a quick little story? I started a podcast back in 2012. It was geared towards human resource professionals, leaders of small organizations. I would be basically interviewing experts across leadership and HR domains. And I would interview my colleague pretty regularly, and we would get on the podcast a lot, and it would just be our authentic back and forth. And you can see our friendship and team dynamic kind of outplaying. And at some point, I had somebody reach out to me from Florida. This is back in 2016, I think, interested in coming to work for our company because they heard us on this podcast. She upended her life, moved to Oregon, and still works with us to this day as an HR director. And it was all from listening to us on a regular basis, hearing us talk about our vision, our beliefs, and just our way in which we think about employees and the workplace, and decided to like totally uproot her life. So that's like an extreme example of how like content and having the human component throughout all of your pieces, like that is a huge differentiator.
That's impressive. And she moved all the way and she's still there.
Still here. Yeah, this is like 5, 6 years later. This is right before the pandemic started too. She moved from Florida to Oregon, had no family in Oregon,
Let's see.
literally came and then was isolated through the pandemic, but she hung in there and she's still with us to this day.
What changed after we made those changes? So I can tell from my perspective, what changed immediately, there was more trust in just the website as like a team member doing some of the communication for us versus us having to manually respond to calls and texts and emails as much with those basic questions. One of the big things you work with us on was an FAQ page. And I think initially I just had just general FAQs I thought might come up, and challenged us to really get a list of like, what are the questions we're getting? Look back in our emails, look at the call logs, look at the text messages. What's unresolved? What are people still having questions about? And then making that the order of the FAQ questions, starting with what's that first question that we most often get, and making sure that the website is optimized so that it delivers that information more effectively. But even with that optimized, people still might need that additional support. That was a huge help just from the operations and customer service side. And not only are customers looking, but potential partners, that's their first impression is your website. When that's really nice, you don't have to have as many flyers back and forth and brochures back and forth because that trust has already been sufficiently built. Now we have a lot more streamlined purchasing through our website. So it's just enabled us to move quicker and have higher quality interactions and more trust built from the beginning. So I've experienced it very transformatively.
I think it's a good word because that's what I hope when I work with small businesses. I'm often working with solo entrepreneurs like
Mhm.
yourself who they don't have a marketing department, and
Yep.
so like they're trying to do marketing, they're trying to do accounting, they're doing HR, they're doing payroll, all of the things, and so I hoped that people go through that transformation where they knew a little bit about marketing or zero. And then through the process of working with me, not only can we build assets, but you learn how to systematize your marketing and have that work inside of your operational system where it can scale. And it sounds like you got there. Like you have the baseline education, you're doing a lot of these things yourself, and you really don't need me unless you need special projects. That's what I hope every small business experiences when they work with me is that they go through this transformation that you're describing, and they get some assets in the meantime of working together. But really, when we're done working together, you get a chance to do all this on your own, and or you know how to do it yourself in like in some way.
That reminds me, I spoke to a friend who owns a marketing firm. When I talked to her about my business at that time, I was a bit small for for what her operation does. But she said, I know some people who they are consultants, and you really want someone who's going to be able to teach you how to sustain whatever they do for you long term. And firms that are larger, they specialize not in necessarily teaching you how to fish. They are doing that function for your business. And that's how the relationship is. It's supposed to be like longer term, ongoing. They're not teaching the client's team how to do this stuff themselves. That's not the function of it. With us working together, that's exactly what we've been able to do. You've taught us how to fish, how to get systems in place and processes in place so that we know what we're even looking for when we think about a CRM platform,
Mm.
so that we know the importance of having an accurate email list. That's something you really reiterated with us is that important. Just like you don't own things that are in Google ads, we don't own social media. They can go away next year, tomorrow, whatever. And if we don't have a direct way to communicate with our current and previous and potential clients, then we're not in the best position. We're at a disadvantage there. So if someone was starting from zero, where should they begin? They haven't really done marketing. Maybe they got their website up really quick. They paid someone to get it up and going. Maybe they have social media, but they're just beginning. What do they
Yeah.
do?
I've had a couple of these cases this year where they're starting a new business or they had zero assets. And so usually when you're starting at zero, I still start at the same spot. It's like having an interview with the owner about who they are, what they do, what problem they're trying to solve, their full suite of services, and then develop that brand messaging. So you're trying to find that hook, that differentiator, but and also let people who know who you are. I would always start with the brand messaging. Just home in on that and make sure you have a solid foundation. And then at this similarly, you can work on the visual branding. So like color palette, logo. And then once you have those pieces, then it's a matter of like, what assets do you need? Do you need a website? Do you need social media? Like, where is your audience? Let's understand where the audience is and then go to those channels. Otherwise, it's really easy to get distracted with all the things that you need to do. So I always start with that foundation of like, get the brand messaging done, visual branding. If you already have some, maybe it needs to be enhanced. But then let's focus on a couple different channels. And it really just depends on the industry and where the audience is at. But I always start there.
Or businesses that are targeting parents and grandparents of school-age children, where in general do you see those populations hanging out more? Where's more of their attention versus other groups?
That is a great question. I'm a parent myself, so I think social media groups, neighborhood groups, those are key channels. I have a wife who's often flipping through TikTok a lot too, so I think those channels are important too because you can localize some of the content there. Schools are a good place too, but really people talk, so you need to get into those parent groups and Facebook groups and things like that, and that's a good place to find parents.
And do you recommend starting with, if we are wanting to improve our presence on social media in general, being kind of everywhere and seeing what sticks, or focusing on one platform, getting good at that one, and then adding on?
I don't like to put my eggs all in one basket personally, so I've focused on a lot of different channels. But the thing I'd tell you is that content marketing can work really well. And so if you create content, let's say like you're in a camp and you got some cool video, or maybe an instructor shoots a reel real quick while she's getting ready to prepare for the class and just talk about what the kids are going to learn, and then post that to social media across all those channels. Those can sometimes take hold because you might get people sharing that content. So if you're not producing any content at all, that's where it gets kind of risky. Is like nobody's going to know about you, but you've got to just constantly be producing stuff out there because you have no idea when you're going to capture people, or the algorithm too could not show your stuff to people in the feed. So just ongoing content is really important for small businesses. And a lot of folks aren't doing it. They're doing nothing because they're like, oh, it doesn't work. I've tried it one time. It doesn't work. Well, on my podcast, I have 580 episodes, and you think every single one of those, they had zero views and listens at one point until people started hearing about the show. And then now I get thousands of downloads per episode. So it's repetition, it's consistency. That's what I encourage for small businesses.
Yeah. And I think specifically for youth enrichment operators, business owners, the photo release, media release is really important. And many of us will put it in registration paperwork. Parents click through it, but they may not read it, or it might be mandatory for them to check that box and then register. If we don't have that, we should have that. But even if we do have that, I take the extra step of informing parents in a specific group or program that we will come to record or take photos, and what the purpose will be and where they can expect to see those photos. And I just let them know, hey, can you reach out to us if you don't want your child photographed? Because sometimes we'll just complete paperwork. We may not look through it thoroughly, and we may not think that day will actually come. So I just want to give people that opportunity to opt out, that additional one-time reminder, and then another one like the day before that program, just to catch anyone who may not have saw the first message that we sent out. But it's really important that while we are focusing on getting more customers and building a bigger brand, that we don't undermine the customer that's right in front of us that already paid us for the service they're receiving right now. We don't want them to feel uncomfortable, and we don't want the children to feel uncomfortable. I make sure to put that at the forefront, like doing right by those who have already trusted us first and foremost. And the same is true for social media and all that, recording footage. I try to record, like if I'm taking a picture of the kids' work, maybe a hand, but not them, never putting their name out there, just certain things like that. They have certificates. I'll see a lot of businesses putting the first name, last name, school that they go to. No, we have to protect the children. So if ever it just feels a little off, just don't post it. and think of other ways that footage can be posted. If you have a swim school that you just opened up, you might not want the kids' faces and the bodies all in those photos, but maybe the pool as it's getting ready for the first day, or your instructors as they're getting ready with their consent as well. I think it's a more sensitive area for us, how we capture that live footage. And we also have to make sure that it doesn't come at the cost of being fully present with the kids. Because if we're all in it and we're immersed working with the kids, then we really shouldn't have too much time to take lots of photos and lots of footage. Sometimes I look at that as a parent. If I'm getting too many photos, what are you doing?
Right.
Like,
It's distracting.
what
It takes
about
away,
kids?
takes away from the learning experience. So
Yeah,
I
and
think you're
sometimes the kids will look a little uncomfortable. I see my kids looking like, eh.
right.
And so, like, why share that photo of them looking just perplexed as to what's even happening right now? We use our discernment even more so because of who we are photographing.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I mean, trust is everything, right? You don't want to just go and capture footage for the sake of capturing footage and potentially ruin that trust. So, documentation of all of that is important. There's also ways to like, I think capturing that stuff is really important, the authentic like interaction. And there's ways of editing the content too to make sure that if somebody doesn't want to be in the photo, you could still like take them out of the frame and make sure that you're just following what the parents want. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Agreed. What's one thing that costs nothing to implement but makes the biggest difference for marketing?
I said it just a little bit ago, but creating content, I think it's free. It just takes your time, and I think with these tools now, AI, voice dictation tools, there's no excuse to not be creating content and building a brand. Like even before you had a website and logo, you could be creating content and building a following. And I think that's what people miss on is not doing that before they launch a business. When you're starting from scratch, you really need to start building awareness around who you are and what you do. And so that is one of the cheapest things to do is create content, post it across social media, build a following. Regardless if you're B2C or B2B, there's various channels that you could be focusing on. That's what I'd be doing.
Yeah. All right, Brandon. Now I'm uncomfortable because I need to do that.
You have been. I've been seeing you on LinkedIn. You're posting pretty regularly. So you should
Yeah.
have been doing it years ago, but you're
Yeah.
doing it now. Better late than never.
It's one of those areas where we can do exactly what I just did, which is like, oh, I'm not doing this one enough, or like, we're not doing TikTok. I don't know TikTok, but wait, a lot of people are on TikTok. Why are we not doing TikTok? Or, oh, we aren't posting reels as much. We're not posting the videos as much, like that type of stuff where something is better than nothing. And like you said, consistency is key here. But also, even those of us who maybe we've had a couple of hundred posts in the past. Yeah, but when is the last time we've posted? And are we doing that authentically and timely so that it drives some type of behavior that we might want to see? If it's right before our summer camps, are we making sure we're being intentional with that too? And also not just being transactional, offering value, because people don't want to just follow us on social media just to get sold to all the time. We only show up when we want them to buy something.
Yeah.
We should also be of value, offering things that make their experience, their lives easier just by interacting with whatever we post.
Yep. I think that's a key point you're focusing on there because a lot of people fall into that trap of like, okay, I'm just going to post to social media to sell or like post, I have this event coming up or here's this new product. You need to be adding value because if you're not adding value, then people are going to tune out. Years ago, I read this book by Gary Vaynerchuk, who's very prominent in social media and the marketing world. And he wrote a
Is
book
it
called
like jab, jab?
Jab, 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 right hook. And it
Yeah.
was the point was like the jabs are the value added content. It's like I'm providing something of value to you, whether it's information or something that's free or a download, whatever it may be. And then the right hook is the offer. I've gained enough trust and then I throw in some sort of like conversion, whether it's a product, discount code, a sale, whatever it may be. I always took that to heart. And I probably add too much value. I don't sell at all through social media, with what I'm doing. I'm pretty much just providing value all the time because I feel like once people get to know you, they'll go a little deeper and do the work and will want to work with you at some point.
What's one thing that you want operators, entrepreneurs in our space to stop believing about marketing?
This is a tough one. That marketing is about tactics. I think that's the easiest trap to fall into is we got to just do this one tactic, whether it's like a TikTok video or follow a trend. You need to be really thoughtful about your marketing. Where's your audience at? Who are you? Who you got to be solving their problem. And so that's what I want people to really take away from this conversation is like we need to really seek to understand our audience and then do the things that it's going to take to get their attention because otherwise you're not going to have buyers.
Yeah. And that could be something as simple as if we know people engage with video clips more on all social media, but we continue to post like static posts, the same things that don't drive the engagement. We have to be willing to do things differently and follow what the data says the viewers want to see. What modality do they want to consume that information in
Yeah.
and meet where they are?
Yep. I think it's the biggest challenge too is like the tactics are always changing too. Like it's the shiny object, right? We got AI and automation and the funnels and all the things, right? The technology is changing, but the people are not changing. The people want their problem solved. And so you've really got to understand your audience. And that's why it's like, if you know who you're trying to target and then your clients or your audience is even giving you testimonials or case studies and grab their words and then create content or marketing around what they're saying because you're going to go find more people just like that. So again, the tactics are always changing, but make sure that your messaging and content are always tailored to your buyer.
Yeah. And that also goes back to what you said earlier about the customer being the hero and not messaging in a way that we're the hero. So the words that they use, using that for social media marketing, things like that, that still centers them as the hero. It centers their experience and builds everything that we're communicating off that.
Yeah. This is not my idea. I read a book years ago, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. Great framework. And I use it for all my small business clients now, where a lot of times when I'm seeing their assets, they're always like, look at us and our products and services and all the things that we can do, but they're not speaking to their audience. And so you kind of flip that in terms of like, we're actually just a guide in the story of our buyer is interacting with us and they're trying to solve whatever problem. We're just part of their story. That's it. And so reframing your marketing in that way is it's a game changer, really.
If someone is choosing between bad marketing and no marketing, like, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to throw something out there.
Oh,
Oh,
I
trust.
don't know. I don't know. I'm an executor by nature. So part
Same.
of me is like,
Just throw it out there.
something out there is probably better than nothing because at least you're going to gain awareness. As long as it's not damaging your reputation, then I think just getting something out there is important because once you start doing stuff, then the repetition, the snowball effect will take course and you'll start to build it as part of your process. So I'd probably say doing something is better than nothing.
Yeah. And then also recognizing when we're focusing on the wrong things. So before I even got my first client with my business, I thought, oh, social media, you have to start with social media. But I never had social media. I never had anything besides a LinkedIn that I wasn't using. And I was on maternity leave. So I started with Instagram, trying to learn it and 0 followers, 0 anything. I think I spent like all day making a post and it was like back to school science ideas based on like inspired by Abbott Elementary. I was really into Abbott Elementary at that point. And I really spent all day finding these activities, posting it. I think like maybe one of my closest friends, I share things with people closest to me when I'm starting and she gave me like a pity, like that was it. And I spent all day doing this. And then I thought, oh, consistency. So I think I did like another similar post the next day and maybe one more. It took me so long. It's not my skill set. And still the result did not look like something that took all day by a long shot. And what that was just having the wrong priorities. Like first, if you don't have a customer first, get the customer first. That's not going to be via social media, especially when it comes to childcare. Go get that program started, flyers, get the word out, whatever, but get that first paying client before ruminating and spending all day on your Instagram when you don't have any followers.
Can I give you and some other people listening some advice on this? Because there's a solution for something like this. If you're stalled on like creating content or just like what to do, I ran across this really awesome idea. If you have LinkedIn, download your bio from LinkedIn. You can do, there's a little drop down where you can get a PDF version of it. If you have a business, write about the business and then dump it into like Claude or ChatGPT and ask it to write you 80 interview questions based on that content. So dump that content in and write 80 interview questions and then use those 80 interview questions, dictate it into some sort of tool. A voice recorder on your phone's fine. Grab the transcript and then throw it in back into Claude or ChatGPT and then ask it to give you like a content plan. So from that, because it's your words, it's your content, the human behind it, and all that context, it will give you a social media plan, for example, across all these different channels. And so that's a good place to start. Like if you're just trying to create from scratch, of course you're going to spend all day trying to create one piece of content versus like use these tools as an assistant to you and help it like ideate for you, because often like we don't know where to start. And this is a good place.
Yeah, help AI help you. Yeah, that's a good trick. Where can people find you if they want to learn more, they want to connect with you, or possibly work with you?
Yeah, if you just Google me, Brandon Laws, you'll probably run across my LinkedIn profile, my website, brandonlawsmarketing.com, or you'll probably run across my profile on Xenium HR as well. And you'll probably run across a podcast. I'm kind of everywhere. So just Google me and you'll find my stuff.
This was so great, Brandon. I'm so grateful. We learned a lot. I learned a lot that I'm going to implement from this call, and just really, really grateful to have worked together. And for all of those who are wanting to work on marketing, just one thing at a time, and we got this.
Thanks for having me on, Ariel.
And that's a wrap. Know someone who needs to hear this episode? Share it, because
Sharing is caring.
if this episode earned it, give us all the stars in a review on whatever platform you're listening on, because it helps other enrichment entrepreneurs find this show. Got a question or a story worth telling? Head to enrichmententrepreneur.com. You can submit your questions, apply to be a guest, and access resources to help you launch and grow your business. Again, that's enrichmententrepreneur.com.
Until next time, keep learning, keep building.